Hi, and welcome to this week's The Mortgage Broker broadcast. Last week we spoke about becoming an appointed representative or AR and some of the key things to think about when deciding whether that route is right for you. This week I wanted to follow on from that and talk about something that can often get overlooked when people are choosing a network, and that is culture. When I'm talking about culture, I don't mean motivational quotes, posters, or a nice page on a website saying our people are our greatest asset and all that kind of stuff. I mean the culture of the network you choose to be part of. Because when you become an AR, the network you choose becomes a big part of your business. It affects how you operate, how supported you feel, how much freedom you truly have, how easy it is to grow, and ultimately whether the business you are building actually feels like the business you want to build. And this is where it gets important because the network that offers the best numbers on paper may not be the network with the best culture for you. When brokers are looking at networks, it's completely natural to focus on the numbers. What is the prop fee split, monthly fees? What does protection commission look like? What systems are included? What about the compliance process? What support is available? And all these matters, absolutely. Of course it does. You're running a business and the commercial terms have to work. But the mistake that some brokers make is choosing network almost entirely on the headline numbers. And the problem with that is very, very simple. The best commercial deal does not always mean the best environment. You might find a network that looks fantastic financially, but once you're inside it, you realize the culture doesn't suit you at all. Maybe it feels too corporate or decisions are too slow. Support is more reactive than proactive. Maybe the compliance relationship feels more like policing than it does a partnership. Maybe you feel like a number rather than a business owner. And if you've left the employed corporate world behind because you wanted more freedom, more control, more flexibility, and a more values led way of working, the last thing you want is to accidentally recreate this same environment as a self employed broker or business owner, because then you've taken all the risk of being self employed, but you still feel like you're operating inside the very culture you were trying to leave behind. And that is a real important part. Becoming an AR should not just be about changing your employment status. It should be about building a business in an environment that supports who you are, what you believe in, and where you want to go. Some networks are businesses, networks feel like machines. Now, I want to be fair. Different networks work for different people. Some brokers love structure, they want a large organization, clear processes, strict systems, and a very defined way of doing things. And that is absolutely fine. For some people, that is exactly what they need. But for others, that can feel like being back in the corporate machine. That phrase is important, corporate machine, because some brokers leave corporate life because they're tired of feeling like they're just part of a system. They're tired of being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and why the process matters more than the client does. Then they become self employed, choose the wrong network, and they realize that they're still in a version of that machine. They may technically own their business, but they may technically be self employed. But culturally, they don't feel free. They feel restricted, they feel managed, they feel like they've swapped one corporate structure for another. That doesn't mean that the network is bad, it just means it may not be right for them. And that's the point. Culture is not about good or about bad. It's about fit. Does that network fit you? Does it fit your values? Does it fit your business? Does it fit the clients you want to serve? Does it fit the way you want to grow? Because if it doesn't, then even a slightly better commission split may feel not feel like it's worth it in the long run. And I want to move on to being mindful of being sold to. When you're speaking to networks, you have to remember that you are being sold to. That's not a criticism, it is just reality. Networks want good brokers, they want productive AR firms, they want businesses that will write quality business and grow. So naturally, they're going to present themselves as in the best possible light. They will talk about their support, they'll talk about their systems, they'll talk about their lender access, they'll talk about their compliance team, they'll talk about their community, they'll talk about how much they care about their brokers. And hopefully, Much of that will be true, but your job is to keep an open mind and look beyond the sales conversation. Because the network's culture is not always revealed in the pitch, it's revealed in the day to day. It's revealed in day one, day two, the day to day, when you need help with a case, when there's a compliance issue, when you want to try something new, when you're growing, when you challenge something, and when things are not straightforward. So ask better questions, not just what is your commission split, but ask how do you support brokers when they're trying to grow? What happens when an AR disagrees with a compliance decision? So how accessible are the senior team? Do ARs feel heard? How much freedom do firms have to build their own brand? What kind of broker tends to do well here? What kind of broker tends not to fit? How do you support firms that want to recruit? How do you help business owners develop? Not just write more business, but develop. And one of the best things you can do is speak to existing ARs, not the ones that the network introduces you to. Find your own conversations. Ask people what it is really like. Ask what the support is like after the onboarding period. Ask what happens when something goes wrong. Ask whether they still feel valued after they join, because the joining experience can feel very, very polished. It will be. But the real culture is what happens 6 months, 12 months, 3 years later. And then talk about your values. Your values are not soft. The foundations, one of the biggest misconceptions in business, that values are soft and woolly. People sometimes think values are just nice words: integrity, trust, support, growth, client first, collaboration. They all sound good, but unless they are lived, they don't mean much whatsoever. For a mortgage broker, your values affect almost everything. They affect how you advise clients, the type of relationships you build with estate agents, accountants, solicitors, and other introducers, how you deal with vulnerable clients, how you manage pressure, whether you chase volume at all costs or build something sustainable, whether you see protection as just purely a tick box exercise or a core part of your advice, the kind of reputation you want to create in the market. So when you choose a network, you need to ask whether that network genuinely supports your values. If you're a client first, does the network support that? If you're advice led, does the network support that too? If you want to build a long term relationship based business, does the network support that? If you care about doing things properly, does the network support that? If you want to grow, but not at the expense of standards, does the network support that? Because your values are not just a personal preference, they're the foundations of your business. And if the foundations are wrong, everything else becomes harder. And moving on, culture matters even more if you want to recruit. This becomes even more important if you're planning to recruit advisors. If your ambition is to build a firm, bring in advisors, grow a team, create a business that is bigger than just you, then network culture really, really matters, because the people you recruit will be generally they'll be aligned to your values. That is why they joined you. They buy into your way of doing things. They buy into your standards, your vision. They buy into to your style of leadership. But if the network sitting underneath your business is not aligned with those values, you can end up with tension. You're trying to build one culture, but the network is creating another. You might be telling your advisors one thing, but the network experience for them makes it feel something very, very different. You want to create a supportive, entrepreneurial, growth focused environment, but the network might feel restrictive, impersonal, or overly corporate. And that disconnect can make recruitment and retention even harder, because when people join your business, they don't only experience you, they also experience your network, the systems, the compliance process, the support, the tone, how easy or difficult it is to get things done. So if you're recruiting, the network becomes part of your employer brand. Even if your advisor is self-employed, that is why alignment matters. Your business culture and your network culture need to work together. They don't need to be identical, that's fine, but they can't be fighting each other, because if they are, you will feel it. You'll notice it. Your advisors will feel it too. And eventually, your clients might feel it also. And also, support should match your business level. Another thing to think about is whether the network supports your current level of business and your next level of growth. Some brokers need a network that's brilliant for sole traders, sole advisors. That's absolutely fine. Some need a network that understands small firms. Some need a network that can support ambitious growth. Some need help with recruitment, training, supervision, lead generation, management, branding. So the question is not just, is this a good network? The question is this the right network for the stage that I am at and the stage that I'm trying to reach? Because your needs will change. When you're a sole advisor, you may care more about compliance support, lender access, systems, and getting cases through smoothly. When you start recruiting, you may need more structure, you may need more support on onboarding advisors, you may need clarity around supervision, you may need better reporting. You may need leadership support. You might need guidance on building a business rather than just writing business. And if the network cannot grow with you, then can become a problem. That is where culture and capability come together. A network might say it supports growth, but what does that actually mean? Does it have the infrastructure? Does it have the people? Does it understand what you're trying to build? And does it want you to grow in a way that suits your values, or does it just want more numbers and more volume? Because growth without alignment can create pressure, but growth with the right support can create a fantastic and a brilliant business. And also as well, the right network should feel like a partnership. For me, the right network should feel like a partnership. This does not mean you're always going to get your own way. That does not mean that there are no rules. It doesn't mean that compliance becomes an option. Absolutely not. A good network should have standards. It should protect clients. It should protect advisors, firms, and itself. But the relationship should feel constructive. You should feel supported, not controlled. You should feel challenged, but not blocked. You should feel guided, but not managed. You should feel like the network wants to understand your business, not just measure your production. That is a difference. A strong network relationship should help you become better. It should help you grow safely. It should help you make better decisions. It should give you confidence. It should give you access to people, resources, an expertise that you would not have when you're on your own. It should give you the framework to build a business you actually want. And when the relationship is right, it can be incredibly powerful. But when it's wrong, it can become very, very frustrating very, very quickly. So if you are looking at networks or even reviewing whether your current network is right for you, ask yourself some honest questions. Do I feel like this network understands the business that I want to build? Do their values genuinely match mine? Do I like how they communicate? Do I trust the people I've spoken to? Do I feel listened to or just sold to? Do they support firms at my stage of growth? Can I see myself being happy here in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years' time? Would this network help or hinder me if I wanted to recruit advisors? Would the future team feel support here? Does the culture feel entrepreneurial or does it feel corporate? Does it feel collaborative or restrictive? Is it supportive or something else? And most importantly, does this network help me build the business I left employment to create? Because that is a big one, that is huge. If the answer is no, then you need to think carefully. And it's okay for different networks to suit different people. It's also worth saying that there is no perfect network for everyone. A network that is perfect for one broker might be completely wrong for another. That is why it's not about naming good networks and bad networks. It's about knowing yourself, knowing your business, and making a decision based far more on just those headline numbers. Some brokers thrive in a bigger, more structured environment. Some prefer that more one-to-one personal relationship led network as well. Some will want lots of autonomy. Some will want hand holding. Some will want to grow to a large firm. Some will want to just stay as a sole trader and be very lifestyle focused. None of these options are wrong, but you need to know which one you are, because if you choose a network that does not match who you are, you will feel it. Maybe not immediately, but eventually you will. So just to bring the end of this episode, culture is not It's not a fluffy, woolly topic. When you choose in a network as an AR, culture affects your freedom, your confidence, your growth, your recruitment, your client experience, and your day-to-day happiness as a business owner. The best numbers on paper are only part of the decision. The right network should support your values, your business level, and your growth plans. It should help you build the kind of business you actually want to build. And if you left the corporate world behind because you wanted something different, make sure you do not accidentally choose a network that puts you back in the same kind of environment that you've left. Be open minded, ask some good questions, speak to other brokers, look beyond the pitch, and remember that your network is not just a compliance route or a commercial agreement. It becomes part of your culture, it becomes part of your business. And if you're recruiting, it becomes part of the experience. Your advisors have to. So choose carefully. Because the right network can give your business solid, strong foundations, but the wrong one can make everything feel even harder than it really needs to be. So that's it from me for this episode of the Mortgage Broker Broadcast. And just before I finish, I just wanted to say something a little bit different at the end of the podcast. This is going to be the last episode of the Mortgage Broker Broadcast for a while. I've been recording this podcast now for well over 5 years. And during that time, I've had the privilege of speaking to some amazing people, welcoming some amazing guests on the podcast, and having conversations that I genuinely love being part of. Podcast has been a huge part of my life and my journey, and I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has listened, shared an episode, given feedback, appeared as a guest, or supported it in any way. But for now, it just feels like the right time to press pause. It doesn't mean that the podcast will never come back, may return in the future, but for now, there will be no new episodes for a while. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for supporting the podcast. And thank you to everyone who's been part of the Mortgage Broker broadcast over the last 5 years. I really appreciate it. And who knows, maybe we're back behind the microphone again pretty soon or some point in the future. But for now, that is it. Thank you for listening to Mortgage Broker broadcast. Thanks for your input. And as always, please do not forget to run your own race.